Good afternoon. This is Mike Farley, Poolside Perspective Podcast. Thanks for being with us today. I'm joined by my co-host.
Trey Farley. I'm glad y'all are tuning in.
And we had an eventful weekend.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yes, we did.
Yes, I got to drive 18 hours and cover 2 states.
Wow, I forgot all about that. Yeah, I was about to say I drove 9 hours, so you drove a little double my amount.
Yes, I did. So I got to participate in 2 weddings.
Yes.
So lots of driving, lots of fun, lots of friends and family. And we had a good time. So
you went to 2 weddings. I went to 1 wedding and an engagement party.
Right.
So, not my own. So my fiance's sister is now,
engaged.
Engaged, yes.
The mom and dad have 2 sisters engaged within a month of each other.
Yes.
That's heavy on the wallet.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
definitely is. So, but I think I trump you too, because I also had 9 puppies born.
Yes, you did.
But I left. I only stayed for half the delivery because I had to drive 5 hours to another wedding and left Laura in the middle of labor with Star.
Yeah. And the Cowboys won, so that's nice.
So we have design concepts that we talk about all the time.
Yes.
And those are particular projects, and we're explaining why we came up with the concepts.
Yeah.
So we're going to take basically it's a duel.
It is.
It's a duel because we're going to pit the fireplace against the fire pit against the fire feature.
Yeah, so pretty much just taking the fire features by themselves and seeing what is best, or seeing what features are best for something.
Right. So it should be a hot episode.
Oh, it should be.
Yes.
So where do you want to start?
Well, I don't know. Do you have a favorite you want to start with?
My favorite fire feature. Ooh. I'm going to let you go first.
So
I'm curious.
There are pros, as you said, to all these things.
There are. And cons to some of them.
And cons definitely to them as well. So, but I'm going to start with Fireplace.
Okay. That's a good one.
So the thing that I really love about a fireplace is that I can burn real wood.
Yeah.
So I love the smell of a campfire.
Yeah.
I love the smell of wood burning. I think it's awesome. It reminds me of backpacking.
Yes.
And it's a lot of fun, but there's problems with burning real wood.
There is, and a lot of cities don't like that.
Yeah. So there's codes and regulations that require you to be certain distances. In some cases, yes, it's just flat not allowed.
Yeah.
And there is hazards with it.
Smoke can be an issue for sure.
And smoke. Well, the advantage of the fireplace is it's controlling the smoke.
Yeah.
And it's usually putting it up about 10 feet in the air. Now,
if it's built correctly and working properly, yes.
So fireplaces, only a certain percent of them burn real wood.
Yeah, I've noticed that the more photo shoots we do, the more jobs we go on, or jobs that we're going to, remodel, or whatever is going on the inside, there's a lot of gas lines now in fireplaces. It's interesting.
So there's 2 veins of thought. So one, we provide a gas line to almost every fireplace because we don't know what people are going to choose. Yeah. Are we going to use wood? And if we use wood, there's some people that don't want to be, they're like, I don't want to be a Boy Scout and light a fire from, the match and just light the tinder and get the logs going. I just want to crank the gas on and throw a match in there and,
What are they? They don't have Doritos or Funyuns? Those are highly flammable.
Oh, yeah.
Just toss one in there,
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Good fire starter.
Good backpacking trip there. So, but your fireplace, some of them aren't even designed to burn wood in.
Yeah.
So if you have a ventless fireplace, a lot of those are just to burn gas in. And if you put wood into the thing, you'll actually catch the thing on fire.
Oh, wow.
So there's been cases that I know of.
Not in a good way.
That people bought a house, assumed they could light logs in this fireplace that they had, put logs in it, and
start smoking, and it doesn't go anywhere.
All of a sudden, the house is on fire.
Oh, my gosh.
And so one of the things that we do as a construction company is we build every outdoor fireplace that we build where it can use wood.
Yeah.
It's not a ventless fireplace. It is a vented fireplace. And so you can then use a log lighter to light your logs. You can put gas logs in there and make it look like that, which we're going to show some features of that on a barbecue bits that's coming up in this episode. And so the other thing that you could do is you can then, just use it to burn wood. Now, if you burn wood, you got to clean it up.
Yes.
So that's one of your disadvantages is there's the ash that you got to, plus you have to have wood.
Yeah, you get the smell of wood though. So wood burning smell is a plus, but yeah, you got to clean it up a little bit. So.
Yeah. Then you got to, where are you going to get the wood from? You're going to, store wood in the backyard, so.
And then when you want to use it, the wood's wet because you didn't cover it up.
Right. So there's that aspect of it. So a lot of people are not real wood fans. And so that's where it becomes different. So do we use, what do we use? The other thing is fireplaces, the way that it works is you have wind blowing across the top of the chimney, and it creates a draw, a Venturi effect that pulls the smoke that's in the chimney up through the chimney.
So the taller the chimney is, the more likely you are to get rid of that extra smoke.
Well, and so most fireplaces have to be at least 10 feet tall for them to draw properly. So,
if they're shorter, they're not going to, the smoke will just linger there.
Right. So you can't do a wood burning if you're going to build a 6 foot tall fireplace. It won't work.
Okay.
8 foot's probably not going to work. So that's where you want to use a ventless and do just gas.
What are those things called? The chimeneas or
a chimenea? Yeah.
I usually see those typically built on top of some kind of structure, which would make sense because they're trying to get them higher up, I'd assume.
So they built them on what kind of structure? Like a column,
3 foot bench area where it just sits on top of it. That way each side has room to store firewood. I've seen that quite a bit.
Okay. A lot of times so a chimenea is done a lot. You see them typically in the Southwest. It's a clay.
Yeah. Those are very popular. Yeah.
With a flue on it, and basically
more portable.
It's just getting your smoke up above where you're sitting.
Yeah.
So, they're nice in some aspects, but if you're going to build a fireplace, when you build a fireplace, you're going to have a big footing underneath it to support all this weight that you're going to go up.
Yeah.
The other thing is I have a lot of people that want a fireplace because they want a TV.
That's probably the best part about a fireplace, in my opinion. Great place to watch the game.
Yeah. So now this doesn't work if you go up above the firebox and then you come in and you just have a narrow flue that's only 3 feet wide.
Yeah, where are you going to put the TV? You got to mount it somewhere.
Right. Well, you're going to put this big screen on this little flue. That looks kind of weird. So a lot of people, they don't think about it when they buy a fireplace and it's being put in their cabana that all of a sudden at the shoulders of the fireplace, it comes in and it's only 3 feet tall going up all the way to the ceiling.
I mean, even if you could mount it because the mount's skinny enough, just imagine a big old TV overhanging the side of the chimney.
It looks pretty ugly.
That would be so stupid.
Yeah. So that would be a true crime probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's not one we're talking about, but I guess it could be covered.
It's an extra
bonus. That is a true crime. So the one thing, if you're going to put a TV on it, you want to keep the fireplace all the way to the ceiling to be 6 or 7 feet wide. In fact, we have a lot of clients, they want a big TV to put it on a 6 foot wide fireplace. It's just too small. Mm-hmm. So the only reason we make the fireplace 7 or 8 feet wide is because they want a bigger TV.
Yeah. That also helps with screening because that's a big purpose for fireplaces.
Fireplace gives you some privacy between you and a neighbor. That certainly is possible. In fact, a lot of times the wings on the structure, we'll build a wall up 5 or 6 feet tall to provide some privacy with that. So that's a good thing. And a fireplace is a really nice focal point, especially if you're sitting in a dining room area. You got a dining room table and you can look down the table and the fireplace is centered up on it. That's a really cool architectural situation. or you might have some couches and chairs. But, how many couches and chairs can you get around a typical fireplace?
Probably 4 or 5
Seats.
Yeah.
So you can't put a whole crew of people out there.
No.
So you're a little limited in the amount of seating around it.
And that also goes into like the warmth it puts off. So if your fireplace is in, say, a cabana where it's all like, let's say 3 sides are walled off and then you have an opening in the front or something like that, you're going to get more heat that way and you could be more spread out. But typically that's not the case when it's an outdoor fireplace.
Right. So, but sometimes in that screening aspect, you can build other things into it. Like Alexander, we put the pizza oven in there.
Yeah.
So we had the wall that was part of the bathroom and the pizza oven was incorporated. So it was a big wall with a fireplace in the wall. So that looked pretty cool.
And it's also that area sunken down. So that heat's going to stay a little bit more.
Right. So Hoffman's had a big screen wall because we looked over to the neighbor's garage was right there.
Yeah.
And, actually it was a carport. But that gave them privacy because they had the whole screen wall built in. So, that's kind of cool as well. The toll house that we did had a big screen wall on that to give them privacy for the kitchen and everything with the neighbor. And so, the fireplace can certainly be done for screening.
And I think also, because I was thinking about this, sometimes a fireplace, it can be an eyesore on the backside, say, if you don't like the masonry or whatever. I've seen jobs that you've done where there's a fireplace and you can see through both sides, which I think is awesome, or 3 sides.
So the challenge with a see-through fireplace, that's a good question, is wind.
Yeah.
If you get much wind, then it's going to not work real well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool looking in concept, but it's not very functional.
If you have a lot of wind.
Yeah. So if your project's up on top of a hill where you're going to get wind all the time, then a 2 or 3 sided fireplace is something that's not going to work as well. Now, we did one not too long ago, and we basically set it up so the winter wind's more what you're looking for. Where here, that's the northwest wind. We basically had a screen wall on the northwest side, and then the fireplace itself. And so it was opened on a corner. So it was 2 sides were open so you could see into it, but where the prevailing wind was coming from was blocked. So it was a cool setup, but very site specific on the solution on how it would work and how it would function. Okay. So any other bad things about fireplaces?
How often do they need to be cleaned? I'm by no means an expert on fireplace cleaning. So
like a chimney sweep?
Yeah.
That's not something that I have a lot of skill at either or knowledge. So
Google that.
We'll have to check out, how often and I think your cleaning aspect is going to be heavily associated with wood.
Yes.
So you're going to get buildup from burning wood versus if you're not burning wood, then you probably won't have as much.
Yeah.
The other thing is fireplaces. That's a big structure, especially if you get 6 or 7 feet wide, all the way up 20 feet tall, because you may have a tall ceiling and, it's going all the way up to the ceiling. There's quite a bit of expense with a fireplace versus your other type of features that you could consider.
Yeah.
But it's a very strong architectural element. A lot of people bring in a lot of decorations and they want, a hearth in front of it so they can put stuff there. They want a mantle on top so they can put stuff there. But if you're going to put a TV up there, a lot of times you don't want to put stuff on a mantle. So that's something to think about. Anyway, but also different hearths. Most hearths are 18 inches deep, so you can sit on them, and 18 inches tall. So it's similar to a chair.
Yeah. Also a point that I want to be fair to when it comes to gas versus wood. A pro for the wood is you don't have a bunch of gas lines running to this thing. It's just wood. Now, for your instance, you have it set up sometimes where it's both. But someone might not want a gas line running to this fireplace for whatever reason it is. So
it can save some money. And, you know, some people are like, I'm in training to be on Survivor. And so, you know, the fire making challenge at the very end is sometimes who wins the whole thing for $1 million. So I definitely don't want to be using gas. I wanted to work on my fire making skills. Although they use steel and flint instead of matches too. So that's quite a challenge.
Yeah.
We had a competition on one backpacking trip and we did that, you know.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, but it was fun. So anyway, to work that out. But okay, any other things you think about?
No, that's pretty much overall what I can think of right now for the fireplace.
Okay, so the Challenger.
Yes.
And the next corner over here is the fire pit.
That's probably my favorite feature, to be honest.
Okay, why is it your favorite?
The sunken fire pit design, I love that. I think that's just a very cozy space. Obviously, that's a different kind of design. You put a fire pit in the middle of it. Fire pits in general, I can sit back, drink a beer. I can put my feet up on a fire pit. Not in the middle of it, obviously. So don't do that. It might hurt. But yeah.
Ruin a pair of boots that way.
Yeah, you did actually. I've ruined a pair of socks also.
Yeah.
So fire pits are a great way to dry off clothing after you've been hiking in the mountains and rain's pouring on your head on the Continental Divide. So that's what we're referring to. So.
Yes. The fire pit.
It's a lot more flexible as well.
I want to use real wood.
You could still do it.
But now I've got smoke.
Yes, you do.
So if you don't mind smelling like a smoked ham afterwards, then a fire pit's great.
Yeah, and I swear, every time it's a wood fire pit, I always end up on the side that the smoke goes to. It just keeps following me.
I've heard that it only follows true beauty.
I've heard that too, so that's a good sign, but I don't know. We'll see.
So the fire pit, most of the fire pits that I do not burn real wood.
Yeah.
Because people, A, don't want the maintenance of cleaning them out.
Yeah.
And B, that they want to gather as many people as possible around this. And so you can have 25% more people and nobody's having to move.
Yeah. And C it's more efficient and you can turn it on like that, which I love. Even if it's a manual, you can go out there and turn on the gas and hit it with the lighter and boom, it's good. You don't have to go get wood or anything like that. It's more efficient in my opinion.
That's a discussion that we'll get into in a minute. But well, most fire pits. Oh, we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so how many people can you put around a fire pit?
Depends on the fire pit. So you can have a ring that's really big. You could have a line burner or a double line burner that's really big. It really depends. Typically, you can have probably 6, I would say, like a typical size.
Okay, so up in the mountains, how many people did we get around a fire pit?
Oh, we can get a bunch. Probably like 10 easily. And then you can stack people around the first wave of people. Like
I mean, we had groups as big as 30.
Yeah.
And they were all around the fire pit.
Yes. But those are wood burning fire pits and they get a lot bigger. So
okay.
So cuz usually with a gas burner, you have obviously the gas line. So it's not the whole, fire pit. You have shiny media in the middle that fills up that void.
So a typical fire pit, if we were to do a square around, the outside dimensions are 5 feet. That's very common.
Yeah.
And so 5 by 5, and the inside's a 3 by 3, and so you can get, you can comfortably sit, around that. You can get probably 8 people around it, 2 chairs on each side.
Yeah.
So that's a rough type situation, but then you can make them longer and put more people around it. You can make it wider.
Put it next to a wall so the heat doesn't, go away as quick.
So there's a lot of flexibility in where you put a fire pit. Now, is a fire pit all about gathering, or is it a visual feature as well?
Well, it depends. Like I said, they're versatile. They're flexible. So if I want to talk about just an aesthetic look, I mean, there's fire pits that are like underwater. I mean, I'm not gathering by that. That's just like something that's cool, something obscure, something different. But usually it's a functional thing where people gather around, roast marshmallows, stuff like that.
Right. So, although from a visual standpoint, the sunken fire pit does look pretty cool.
It does. As long as you can see it from whatever view, because it is sunken. But it's also like for aesthetic wise, I would say, and this we're talking about fire in general, right? So the Fireplace does this too. But when I see fire and I'm inside a house or I'm outside, say it's a big yard, and I see the fire going, it just allures me there. I don't know. It's warm. It's a sign of life.
We survived, and we've got food.
Man discovered fire
And warm spot.
Yep.
Yes, we've got our fire. Arg.
But
anyway.
I would say they're more functional than aesthetic wise. They can be for aesthetics though.
I would say that a lot of times, like we mentioned in the design concepts last week, we talked about a fire pit was the focal point as you look through the middle of everything.
Yeah.
And so you can put them in spots where they're focal points. The other thing is the use of a line burner can be very directional of the eye and take your eye to a focal point.
Yes.
Or be part of the focal point. So the Adams job that we talked about a couple weeks ago had a spa, then there was a line burner, it had a water feature on the other side, and it drew your eye to the fireplace and sunken fireplace down below. So they can be visual as well as gathering, but I would say it's mostly gathering. So from a cost standpoint, cheaper to build than a fireplace.
Yeah. And also to add on to that point, there are fire pits nowadays that are pre-made, that are abstract and geometric shapes, very modern, that are very aesthetic pleasing.
So they're kind of artworks that catch on fire.
Yeah, peaches. Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to say it. Perfect.
So you got something that it looks good when it's sitting there versus just the fire pit's more of a functional thing, but it doesn't add to the aesthetics when it's not working.
Yeah. I mean, you could have a fire pit be a place where you gather, and maybe it's in the middle of summer and you don't have some table outside. You could gather next to the pool at the fire pit with it not lit, and put your drinks on it and stuff like that.
It's still a conversation pit.
Yeah, it's the area where you go to have a conversation.
Yeah. And that's cool with the sunken is I think that you then can interact with people that are standing in the pool while you're sitting in that area. So I call it the dry outdoor living space versus the wet outdoor living space.
Okay.
For conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So cost, aesthetics, function, construction. So a tip on fire pit construction.
Okay.
I'm a fan of 12 inches tall.
Why is that?
Because it's a good footrest.
Yeah, it is.
So I've had people argue with me that 18's better.
18's about the size of my leg. The first part of my leg. That's a great seat.
It's a seat.
Yeah.
So do you want to sit next to the fire?
I don't want my butt to be burning.
Right. So that's my comment is why make them 18 inches tall so people are going to sit on the edge of it because there's fire in the middle of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So anyway, so I like 12 because, it's comfortable to rest my feet on it. If I do built-in seating, now that's a common request that I have. And with a sunken fire pit, I get built-in seating.
Oh, yeah.
But if I don't have a sunken fire pit, I'm really not a fan of built-in seating.
So would you consider Spraggins a sunken fire pit?
No.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah.
It's built on a level patio.
Okay.
It is lower in the yard. There is a built-in bench that's incorporated with the wall and the pool on one side.
Yes. And I like that because you can bring in furniture later on if you're actually using it for that purpose and fill in the rest of it.
So here's my reason that I don't like built-in seating.
Okay.
Temperatures change.
Big time.
So in the wintertime, how close do you want to be to the fire?
As close as possible. Now we're in Texas for people that are listening.
Right.
So we get real cold, real hot.
We have the extremes.
Yes.
I mean, we have snow.
Yes.
So, and we have the opposite of whatever non-snow situation is scorching heat. So, and with your snowy environment, you want to gather up as close as possible.
Yep.
So if you got a built-in seat and it's 2 feet away, that works great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because 2 feet away, you can sit and someone can walk between you and the fire pit.
Yeah.
Okay. If you get much farther than 2 feet away, you can't prop your feet up on the edge of the fire pit.
No.
Especially if you have short legs.
Yeah, most people can't.
Yeah. So, so some people, in fact, want it more like 20 inches instead of 24 inches because they want a little bit closer. But it's summertime.
Ooh.
You're gathering.
Yeah.
You want to have marshmallows and s'mores still. How close do you want to be to the fire in the summer?
Probably not that close, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with a cold front in the summer.
Yeah. So that's why I don't like built-in seating if you do it on all 4 sides because it's miserable. You will not use that fire pit in the summertime.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe little kids will go over there and they'll be like, oh, it's so hot. I'm melting. Anyway, but no. You want the capability to move your chair back and forth. And so I may do built-in seating on one side. And usually that's because I'm retaining something or I'm dealing with an elevation change and I can do built-in seating and it looks cool and deals with that elevation change. But, you know, the other 3 sides, I want the capability to move the chairs back and forth.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's like Spraggins.
Yeah.
Versus, some other projects like the one that we did in Quail Hollow, the circular fire pit, you can't move farther away from that thing. You're there all the time. Now, most of the time in the summer, they don't turn it on. It's a conversation pit.
Yeah.
Because it's in the middle of the pool and we can interact with people in the pool, which is still functional. But
well, actually, with that design, since it's around, the water surrounds them, I imagine they're going to get colder just because of the water, the lake effect, So.
Well, when the water's 90 degrees in temperature,
yeah, that's
I don't
true.
think it's going to make it any cooler.
Speaking of how versatile fire pits are, let's talk about the solo stove, because that's pretty new. I've seen commercials with Snoop Dogg popping up, and it's a smokeless fire pit.
This is a smokeless fire pit. So here's the thing that it is, and this is where you get into, if you build a fire pit or a fireplace or have a fire feature, it's built in. It's got a gas line that runs to it. You have to get a permit from that, and you have to be certain distances away.
Yeah.
From anything that's flammable.
It's built in.
It's built in.
So not a solo stove.
It's not a solo stove. Solo stove is an appliance. Okay. I can pick it up and move it and put it anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are not codes for appliances.
I'm sure there's recommendations.
Oh, there's certainly recommendations for those, because there's fools that have burned their houses down.
Yeah.
People that drag these things. Oh, it was a rainy day, so we drug it onto the porch, and our porch ceiling was 8 feet tall, and we built a fire pit and up with a bunch of wood, and all of a sudden the roof of the porch is catching on fire.
Yeah.
So yes, the recommendations are you need to keep those a certain distance away from the home and everything like that. And I'm sure it says that in the instructions, but basically you can put it wherever you want to put it.
You don't have to pull a permit to buy one of these.
You don't have to pull a permit to buy one of these, although you need to be not stupid with what you do.
Yeah, don't be an idiot with fire. That's a bad recipe.
One thing is, this is a wood burning. And so I had a client one time that was like, well, we were a certain distance from the house and we were a certain distance from the fence, and we didn't think we had a problem.
Yeah.
Till we caught the tree on fire. And it was in the fall. It had a bunch of dead leaves on it. So suddenly this whole tree is on fire.
Oh God.
Because they caught it on, the fire pit. So you have to be intelligent about what you do and how you light it. I've had people pour a bunch of gasoline on something and throw a match on it.
That's what I was thinking of.
So a solo stove is a very nice piece of equipment in some small backyards where you don't have a lot of space, that you can create a fire and you don't have a lot of smoke. But it goes through firewood. It eats it up pretty fast. But I know quite a few people that have these features and they love them. So that's something you can check out. And there's all kinds of, fire tables, and, you can find all kinds of fire pits that have propane tanks in them. So you don't have to run a gas line, and you can go, create a bit of fire feature. So these are portable fire pits, or, they're just, something that you can build a fire into and incorporate in your design in your backyard.
Yeah.
Versus a fire feature.
Okay.
So a fire feature can be all kinds of different things.
Yeah, it can.
So what's the most common that you see?
Fireball. By far.
Fireball.
Yeah, that's the most common.
So definitely the most common situation. So we've taken a bowl and we put a gas line into it and we light it with fire. So I was looking through some old photos the other day, trying to find pictures of the CETA project for you, and I saw the first fire bowl that I did.
Okay.
And it was in about 2002.
Oh, wow. That's more recent than I would expect. I
Yeah.
thought they would be longer than that,
No, if you're really, fire is a relatively new thing that's been used from an ornamental standpoint in the backyard.
It's interesting because you've talked about how 9/11 changed the industry, kind of like how COVID did. And obviously I was like 4 at the time, so I didn't, retain that information. But that is interesting. 2002, that's right after, yeah. So,
Yeah. So
wow.
I remember a buddy of mine doing fire features in Phoenix, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Isn't it hot enough there already? What in the world are you doing with all these fire gathering aspects? Because that's all I thought of was gathering.
Yeah.
You had fire pits and you had fireplaces. You gather around those.
Did they have tiki torches back then? Because I feel like that's been around for a long time too.
The tiki torch was a Hawaiian thing that's been around for a real long time. Okay. So, but that is a feature. But I'm talking about using fire as an ornamental feature. And so some of the first things that were done were, this was back in the day when everybody was doing boulder work, and they incorporated fire into the boulder work. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And isn't that hot enough? And he's like, Mike, if you look at the designs, the fire is not where the people are. I said, so why you do that? He says, it's cool to look at.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, it is. Oh, that is a really good idea.
Yeah. It changes the vibe.
It changes totally the setting. But prior to 9/11, he was one of the first people that I saw did it, and it was in, I want to say 2001, 2002. So they started doing a lot of fire in Vegas on the Strip, and creating these ornamental things. And so that's where the Grand Effects was the very first ones that I know of that, created a bowl and everything like that. And they were working in Vegas on all. That's where most of your fire feature companies originated, in Vegas, because Vegas was such into fire situations and creating that aspect. But I took a regular garden pot and ran a gas line into it and filled it up with gravel, and we lit these things on the edge of a vanishing edge, and it was for a parade of homes. And it was, like I said, 2001, 2002, and they split.
Ooh.
Because they weren't designed to deal with the heat.
No, yeah.
I mean, like I said, we just found a regular. So what did I do? I just went down to the garden center and found a different pot and stuffed it all in there and relit it. And we didn't turn them up as much. And it got through the home show, which was several weeks long, and the house got sold, and I had no earthly idea what happened, but I'm sure they split again because they weren't designed for that purpose.
Yeah, I've seen, because working in the field, I've seen issues with fire bowls before, like paint. Sometimes if they try to do a special kind of paint and make it fit some kind of scene that they typically don't usually do, it'll melt sometimes or do an effect to it. Or the big one, because fire bowls they're propped up usually. They're usually higher up than a fireplace or a fire pit. Usually the wind affects them a lot more,
right.
So it'll blow them out.
Right. I think we're going to take a break for true crime.
Okay, let's do it.
So The question is it a crime not to have automation with a fire bowl?
Is it a crime not to have automation for a fire bowl? I think it is. And the reason is it's an aesthetic item, right? So
Right.
you would want those fire bowls to automatically come on every day. So when you go get home and it's nighttime, you look in the backyard, you see that vibe that we've been talking about, and it allures you to go outside.
Well, I know some people that they just light them and they sit inside and look at it.
Yeah.
I don't even go outside.
Yeah.
Because and if you keep the pool light off,
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool. 'Cause then the light of the fire dances off the surface of the water, and it creates a really neat setting, which sometimes people don't think about, and they automatically turn the pool lights on.
Yeah.
So that's one thing is, but yes, fire bowls are generally a visual effect. We're not going to go roast marshmallows in a fire bowl.
Typically, we're not going to.
Although it would serve that function.
It is fire.
It is fire. It still works that way. But what are you going to really use a fire bowl if it's in the evening and you got to walk out there and turn the gas on and then light the thing? Is that going to happen with as much frequency as I push a button on my phone?
Now, let me play devil's advocate and just be a little transparent. Before we talked about this, I was breaking this down in my head, and my train of thought was the wind affects fire bowls a lot. It does, because they're higher up, and so it blows them out. It's very irritating. So if you had a manual, I was thinking in my head, well, that people like manual fire pits a lot more, because you can just turn it on and then light the gas, and then you don't really have issues with them blowing out or anything like that.
If it's windy, you turn them up more.
Yeah. But you said if it's manual, the fire bowl is manual, and then it blows out. Is it going to relight, or is it just going to keep blowing out gas? And I don't know the answer to that, but that could be an issue.
Oh, I guarantee it's not relighting till someone comes over there with a match.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's manual.
Yeah, I just had a brain fart. But yeah, exactly.
So, and here's the big challenge. You got two different fuel sources. You got natural gas and propane.
Yeah.
So propane sinks.
It's heavy.
So you have a propane bowl that blows out. The propane just sits there on the ground.
Yeah.
Till somebody comes over and lights their cigarette. Boom.
Yeah.
Okay. Natural gas is light, so it goes up into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So the chances of it pooling is much less. Still not a good safety thing. So a lot of cities today require, if you have a bowl, that it has to be automated. In fact, fire pits have to be automated as well.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
With a lot of cities, that if you're in certain distances, you can lessen the distance. You have to be away from the house and from the fence and all those type of things, because now it becomes an appliance.
Yeah.
And you have to meet the appliance rules.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's automated, if it's manual, some cities are like, well, it's got to be 30 feet away from everything, and you have a small backyard. You can't put it anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't have the distances. I have one client, and they said when they put the fire bowls in, and we looked at automation, they're like, that's a really high expense. Is it really worth the aspect of the money? And they said they never really thought about how they were going to use it and how it changed how they use their space. But they were like, it can be raining outside, we'll light the fire bowls. It can be mosquitoes all over the place, we can light the fire bowls. It could be, dusk, it can be dark, it can be 2 a.m, we can light the fire bowls from our phone. Okay, we can be laying in bed and light the fire bowls. We can light the fire bowls when we're fixing dinner. We can light the fire bowls anytime, anywhere, and it creates a vibe and a setting that we wouldn't normally. There's no way in the world that it's like, well, it'd be kind of a cozy effect. Let's get up out of bed and go light the fire.
Oh, no, that's not happening.
That's not happening.
No.
It's just, there's no way in the world it's happening. It's sprinkling outside, dear. Could you go light the fire bowls?
No.
No.
It would become a party feature, and you use it like 3 times a year.
Right.
Maybe, if you party.
So
yeah.
that was the thing. They said, we use it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, when I first got into it, the way you turn your spa on for most people was you went out and turned valves on the pool equipment.
Yeah.
And, so that spa got turned on basically every time you had a family gathering. But other than that, nobody ever turned their spa on and off. Today, that's unheard of, because everybody controls it from their phone.
Yep.
And so how often does a spa get used now?
A lot.
A lot
more than it used to.
Yeah. So it's a matter of convenience. So if you got a feature and you want to enjoy it, it's got to be automated. So I think it's definitely a crime if you don't have automation on a fire bowl.
I agree.
The other aspect is the safety aspect. Is what happens is if it goes out, it automatically relights.
Yep. You'll hear the ticking noise.
And after 5 or 6 times, if it can't light it, it turns the appliance off.
Yep. And then you have to go reboot it from the computer or your phone.
But from a safety standpoint, far superior. From an aesthetic standpoint, in gathering,
it's a given.
Yeah, it's a given. So now the combo plate. Okay. The combo plate is, I like fire. I want to have a fireplace. I want to have a fire pit, and I want to have fire feature. Mm-hmm. Does that happen?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people are pyromaniacs. They love fire in their backyard. I don't blame them. It's a great vibe.
Yeah. So I was going through and looking at fire, and I have a lot less projects that have one feature versus at least 2 and sometimes 3 features.
Oh, wow.
In fact, there's more of them that have 3 features on them than 1. Because, I mean, there's people that are like, well, I want to gather around fire, so I want a fire pit, but then also I want the cool aspects. I want a fire feature as well. Or I want fire features and I want to have a fireplace, or I want a fireplace and I want tiki torches. So that's another one that, we briefly mentioned earlier, but the Hardeman Lazy River that we did has, tiki torches all over it. So it really fits with that Hawaiian tropical vibe.
Yeah, it's
that
perfect.
We're trying to create.
And I know we did the, is it a crime? But tying back into that, I had a thought, and isn't it for fire pits, if it's propane, it has to be a manual? Because I thought I've heard that somewhere before. No? Is it the other way around, or?
No. So the only thing that comes into propane that I know some people do, it's not a code or anything like that, but the media that you're using in the fire pit or the bowl
can't be glass.
With propane, they won't use glass.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Because glass traps the propane, and especially if you do a really thick layer of glass. That was one of the first things we found out that we did, is we used to put a lot of glass on the top. Well, one, it's expensive, so we found that it's better to have the wire mesh up at the top, and then put the glass on top.
You get more air in it too. It doesn't suffocate the flame.
Right. But when we first started, we used to fill the whole thing up with glass.
Yeah.
Anyway, so one of the things is the lava rock, especially the tumbled lava rock that we see today, or cannonballs is another. The spheres allow a lot more air to go. So those are 2 that work really well with propane.
Okay.
Versus glass, my preference is to only use that with natural gas. I can use it with cannonballs and lava rock as well, but only with natural gas do I use all 3. So that's where that comes in.
What other fire features do you enjoy? The helical
torches.
The helical torches. We should talk about that for a little bit.
So that's a cool feature. I believe that's made by Grand Effects. It looks almost like a gas light, which is really cool. I know that we did Ryan Hughes, one of his first sunken fire pit projects that he did. There was some helical torches on the wall of the the pool area, which was a really cool effect. So fire, there's a lot of different things you can do with it. And I think a lot of people just do the same old stuff all the time. And so I think, you need to get with a company that does good work and talk to them about the things that you might be able to do with fire. I know Reed's done several things where he's done fire features that went not horizontally, but vertically.
Yeah, like a column.
Yeah. So there's some cool things like that.
Yeah.
I know a couple other companies that have done things like that. So it's a media that you can look at and explore. And like you said, it's not been out that long.
No, it's fairly new.
I mean, we're a little over 20 years of using these things. And so I think you're going to get more and more creativity that's going to be done because people are going to come up with different applications to use it with.
Yeah.
And I did a project a while ago. We just posted some pictures of it again. And we did columns, just simply columns, and we put burners in the end of it. Instead of building a column and putting a bowl on top, it was just, they wanted a cleaner look. They didn't want to see the bowl. So it was a really cool effect. But, there's all kinds of things. We're working on a project right now, and they want fire hanging off the edge of the Vanishing Edge weir.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about several different things. We'll see what we end up with there.
Yeah, you only can use a couple things because you got to prop it up on the edge of the weir. Make sure it doesn't fall off.
Well, it's going to be suspended in kind of like a basket type situation. But anyway, lots of fun things to consider.
Just a couple more things that I had notes on. There's the fire pit table, which we already went over the fire pit. I love that too, especially when I'm at dinner and it's a really nice restaurant. You have the fire in the middle. It's really cool. And then Corton steel fire pits and bowls. I don't know much about those, but I would assume they would get really, really hot.
Yeah, you want to be careful on what you use. So we've done some that we've made, and we used fire brick on the inside of it.
Okay.
And then used it as a veneer, just like we would a masonry veneer. So it keeps it from getting hot.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, you want to be careful when you're working with metal and fire, not to create a branding iron.
Yeah.
So one of the weddings, they had a branding iron. That was kind of cool that they took their initials and branded it onto a board with their names, which was kind of cool. So anyway, all kinds of fun things with fire.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hopefully that's been helpful for people to think of. What we would like to know is, what's your preference? Which do you think is the better contender, the fireplace, the fire pit, or the fire feature?
And if you've seen any like weird, something that's just different, creative. Unique fire features, just let us know what they are, and we'll look at them, and maybe we'll mention them sometime.
Yeah, or if you've got questions, please add those in so we can answer those for you. Any of the social media applications or the website are also great sources for that. And we'll look forward to talking to you about some more things coming here next week.
Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you later.
Take care.